Sejak suami kena aksiden, kerana terpaksa berhenti kerja lah.
Banyak tempahan-tempahan kami dibatalkan.
How long this pandemic going to be here and how and when it's going to end? When you talk about survival, yeah, how do we survive?
Nama saya penuh Muhammad Sarji bin Ramli, tapi lebih dikenali dengan Chef Sarji. Pasal dulu saya bekerja sebagai seorang chef di hotel lah, sehingga saya mengalami kemalangan dan menghidapi penyakit rheumatoid arthritis. So saya mempunyai 7 orang anak, dan anak saya 4 orang sudah bekerja dan 3 orang masih belajar. Disebabkan keadaan saya macam ni, saya terpaksa mengusahakan perniagaan catering saya. 3 bulan kebelakang ni, isteri saya menghidapi stroke dan saya terpaksa menjalankan perniagaan ini saya sendiri dah, di samping dibantu oleh anak-anak. Bila keadaan isteri saya menghidapi stroke, so saya terpaksa bangkit. Saya terpaksa bangkit, walaupun sakit saya terpaksa gigih menghadapi cubaan, dugaan dan macam-macam lah. Dengan keadaan pandemik ni, perniagaan pun merosot.
The first highlight was the high proportion of households in the sample that had members of their households with either chronic illnesses or disabilities. Around 60% of households were in that situation, which is a very, very high. And the second finding of interest was the extreme vulnerability of households that are headed by people with disabilities. So we found that those households, they went into the crisis with the lowest levels of income, the lowest levels of precautionary savings and the lowest rates of access to social security. They were most heavily affected in terms of their incomes during the crisis, and then they recovered slower.
Banyak tempahan-tempahan kami dibatalkan sebab saya banyak membekalkan makanan untuk kursus-kursus kerajaan. Jadi pihak-pihak yang pelanggan kami ni tak dapat mengadakan kursus dan berbagai lagi aktiviti lah. So saya terpaksa bertahan lah untuk sementara ni kan. Bila tempahan dibatalkan, so saya cuba mencari hasil daripada plan B. Plan B saya buat COD, ambil tempahan daripada WhatsApp lah, Facebook lah. So alhamdulillah ada sambutan yang menggalakkan lah. Pendapatan tu saya kira on average sebulan. So pendapatan dikatakan boleh drop sampai 40 to 60% lah daripada sebelum ini.
Okay, when the COVID-19 actually happened here in our country, I would say that many of us, the community at large, do not have enough information. So when you talk about people with disabilities, so just like us, it's like, the information or the question, everything come back to us. So we're kind of like tight in the sense that we do not have sufficient information at the same time. When government decided to actually to have MCO during that time, so it became a big issue because we're not prepared for that kind of situation. What are we supposed to have, prepare the basic needs for food and things like that. We actually do the necessary in the beginning, we try to get as much sponsor as we can to extend food, and we work together with Grab, and that actually helped us a lot. They actually provide us with the contacts and information, and we do the rest. So we use that network that we have with Grab. So with our affiliate members outside Klang Valley, so what we did was we collect as much information or data about them, those who needed help and things like that. So, and we found out that about 1,000 over families who actually needed help and assistance. And when closer to MCO and it was seriously implemented, So there is no way to actually move about and send things like that. So what we did was we actually asked them for their bank account number and transfer whatever the amount that we receive, for them to actually purchase the necessary items from home.
Daripada segi perbelanjaan keluarga saya terpaksa mengamalkan sikap jimat cermat lah. Banyak makan, contohnya kurangkan keluar, mana belanja, kurangkan shopping tu. Banyak tumpukan makan dekat rumah bersama keluarga kan. Lepas tu daripada segi perubatan ni banyak saya mendapatkan rawatan daripada kerajaan lah kan.
It's not an easy thing to create awareness or educate the public at large, and so we realized that the awareness just isn't there. There's not much on people with disabilities. So there's so many things that we actually have to break the barrier, because we believe that when there is communication, when there is information extended to all the target group, all of us would actually have, all would be satisfied, and we could actually ease the problem or the issues that we have at that point of time.
Nama Mazna binti Abdullah, suami Ramli bin Madera. Kak Nal duduk di sini dah 28 tahun. Keluarga yang duduk dengan Kak Nal ada 4 orang, yang dah berkahwin 3 orang. Sejak suami Kak Nal aksiden tahun 2010, dia koma sebulan. Lepas tu dia hilang bayi kekal 100%. Lepas tu doktor cakap masa tu hidup dia untuk 50-50 saja. Sebab kecederaan dia parah kan. Kerana terpaksa berhenti kerja lah. Sebab banyak kan kerana kena pergi hospital buat rawatan. Sejak COVID ni Kak Nal rasa benda-benda macam tu untuk pergi rawatan ke apa ke tak mendatangkan, maksudnya tak adalah terlalu sangat. Kak Nal rasa macam biasa je. Untuk pergi hospital tu Kak Nal rasa biasa je. Kak Nal rasa sebab kita pergi, kita apa yang dia orang arahkan tu kita ikut. Lepas tu dia orang kata buat SOP, kita ikutlah buat SOP tu tadi. Buat
masa ni temu janji tu di waktu dia tu macam dulu pernah sebulan 2 kali. Tapi keadaan pandemik ni dia dah kurangkan. Jadi macam isteri saya dia dapat rawatan cuma temu janji sebulan sekali macam tu je. So untuk saya pula dia lanjutkan lagi jauh. Dia punya temu janji dia lanjutkan sampai 2-3 bulan. Prosedur SOP nak masuk SUKN tu pun susah. Kak Nal rasa itu satu tanggungjawab. Kak Nal rasa tak adalah terbeban ataupun tertekan. Sebab Kak Nal dapat sokongan daripada anak-anak Kak Nal. Dia orang akan pastikan yang Kak Nal atau suami tak rasa tertekan ataupun ada masalah lain ke kan. Kak Nal akan bagi tahu anak-anak lah.
1 in 20 people in Malaysia are disabled. Only 3% of the 2.4 million self-employed workers in Malaysia have access to social security. And Malaysia is also an ageing society, and the care for older people will increasingly impact on young people, and potentially limiting, for example, the capacity of families to invest in their children. So excessive reliance on employment-based social security will always result in high levels of inequality and low levels of social mobility in these sorts of households.
Kak Nal rasa untuk bantuan-bantuan ni seharusnya diteruskanlah. Abang dapat daripada Baitumal bulan-bulan 300. Untuk tu Kak Nal dapat BSR, bantuan sehari hidup. Lepas tu untuk komuniti Sri Kota ni, Bandar Razak ni, Kak Nal dapat bantuan daripada Persatuan Penduduk dia orang ada bagilah untuk beras ke apa ke kan. Kerana dibayar oleh pekeso. RM 2,100 sebulan.
Saya personally saya dapat daripada Baitumal lah. Baitumal bagi saya 500 sebulan. Bantuan prihatin pun saya dapat. BRIM pun dapat, prihatin pun saya dapat. JKP yang 3,000 tu saya dapat. Saya dan sahabat-sahabat saya menubuhkan Persatuan Orang Kelainan Upaya dari Serejang dan dapat membantu satu sama lain. Saya sebagai setiausaha kepada persatuan ni cuba mendapatkan bantuan-bantuan pada NGO, orang-orang persorangan. Sebelum ni Kak Nat tak pernah memohon untuk bantuan Baitumal tu lah. Kak Nat tanyakan kawan macam mana nak pergi ke bangunan tu ya. Sebab kita naik train, kita nampak bangunan tu macam hampir dengan kita punya train tadi kan. Tapi bila kita turun, benda tu jauh. Jadi Kak Nat tanyakan kawan macam mana saya nak pergi ke bangunan tu. Nak naik apa, berapa tambang. Kak Nat pergi. Kak Nat tinggalkan suami, Kak Nat pergi cari sendiri. Lepas tu sekarang ni bila kawan-kawan Kak Ana macam ada masalah macam untuk bantuan zakat ni, dia orang tak tahu macam mana nak memohon, macam suami ke anak-anak yang terlantar yang tak boleh pakai pampers, Kak Ana kata tak apa, jom. Tapi dengan syarat Kak Ana katakan kita naik train, macam mana nak ambil borang, macam mana nak isi, macam mana nak pergi angkat sumpah, macam mana nak hantar balik benda tu, apa surat-surat yang dia orang nak. Kerana suruh dia orang sediakan penuh-penuh, kerana cek sendiri, kerana kata okey semua cukup, jom kita pergi. Alhamdulillah.
The government is trying their very best to actually provide and to actually have the alternative to education by having it online. Many of them who are under the B40 group, there is no, they don't have those electronic devices to actually fit into the e-learning concept. So if we are actually targeting on this online education, it's a big challenge for children with disability and with family background of B40.
I think also if we look at children with disabilities in those households, we found that they experienced the most challenges in terms of accessing online education. Many of them found that it wasn't practical to access online education. And of course this adds to a broader evidence and experience that's come through during the crisis on the sort of impacts of the crisis on people with disabilities, increased isolation and even exacerbation of physical and mental impairments as a result of their isolation and reduced access to rehabilitative services.
They don't have a handphone. Only the parents do have handphone. So it's like, the cost is like for every single item that they have to think of. And when teachers send their papers, their homework or anything, and they have to print it, it's an extra cost. They have to actually go out somewhere to do it. When we talk about the pandemic, and also with regards to us people with disabilities, just don't miss us out, don't just push us aside. Majority out of job at this moment, or kind of like if they are actually working on their own, surviving, but how do they actually go about doing it? That kind of problem, if it continue, is going to actually affect the socio-economy aspect of people with disability itself. So it's just like what everyone says, that we don't know how long this pandemic going to be here and how and when it's going to end.